For the Heartland Newsfeed Radio Network, this is Jake Leonard with your morning Newsbreak for Monday, April 23rd. Second Amendment advocates will take to the state capitol Wednesday to lobby against proposed legislation to limit gun owner rights. The Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day, also known as IGO, is an annual event held and actively promoted by the Illinois State Rifle Association. Participants will begin meeting at the Bank of Springfield Center, with doors opening at 10:30 with the speaker program beginning at 11:45. A march to the state capitol will take place at some point in the annual event has taken place since the early 1990s to put a face on gun owners compared to how the media portrays them. Members of the Libertarian Party of Illinois will take to Springfield Wednesday during the IGO event to collect signatures for their statewide slate of candidates. Gubernatorial candidate Chris Jackson will be present alongside many members to collect petition signatures. Currently, the slate roughly 10,000 signatures collected at this time. And finally, average gas prices was 2.5 cents last week to an average of $2.73 per gallon, according to a daily survey of nearly 4,400 gas stations in the state done by Gas Buddy. This averages 23 cents higher and 13.7 cents higher month-to-date. Averages in Champaign came up to $2.71 and $2.75 per gallon respectively, with a 4.7 cent increase in Champaign and 2.5 cent increase in Peoria compared to 1 week ago. Averages in St. Louis 3.1 cents compared to last week to $2.59 per gallon. This has been our segment of your morning news break. For more of these stories, you can log in anytime at heartlandnewsfeed.com. For the Heartland Newsfeed Radio Network, I'm Jake Leonard. Your morning news break continues with top stories from Reuters Now, SRN Radio News, and FPP Radio News.
I have decided to run for United States Senate.
Mitt Romney's attempt to reboot his political career hitting a roadblock. The former Massachusetts governor failed to win the Utah Republican Party's nomination for the U.S. Senate seat being vacated by retiring Senator Orrin Hatch.
I have good support across the state.
Romney needed at least 60% of the votes from delegates at the Utah GOP convention Saturday to head to the November election unopposed. But, according to media reports, he fell short. Romney will now have to compete against Mike Kennedy, a 3-term state representative, in the June primary. Kennedy has portrayed himself as a Utah local and Romney as an outsider who moved to the state after his failed 2012 presidential campaign. Despite that, President Trump endorsed Romney on Twitter in February, even though the two haven't always seen eye to eye, frequently trading vicious insults over Twitter during the last few years. And now, with round-the-clock updates from Reuters journalists, here are today's top stories.
The Waffle House gunman remains on the run in Nashville.
Preparations in full swing for a historic Korean meeting.
From grasshoppers to hot dogs, MLB has its first ever food fest.
This is Reuters Now.
Thank you also.
Waffle House diner James Shaw just wanted to live when a nearly nude gunman opened fire early Sunday at this Waffle House near Nashville, Tennessee. Shaw says he had no choice.
You have to either react or you're gonna, fold. And I chose to react because I didn't see any other way of me, living. And that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to live.
In reacting, Shaw became a hero to many. During a break in the gunfire, Shaw dashed at the gunman and wrestled away the AR-15 assault-style rifle. His fast actions were credited with saving lives, though he dismissed the idea that he was a hero.
So I'm not a hero. I'm just a regular person, and I think.
After losing the gun, officials say the suspect, identified as 29-year-old Travis Ranking, fled, leaving behind 3 victims. A 4th person later died at the hospital. Officials recovered 2 magazines containing additional ammunition for the rifle. The magazines were found in the suspect's jacket left nearby.
He clearly came armed with a lot of firepower, intending to devastate the South Nashville area.
Investigators have also learned that Ranking had been arrested last year for being in a restricted area of the White House, and that the same rifle was confiscated by authorities in Illinois last year at the FBI's request. They say the authorities returned the rifle and 3 other weapons to Ranking's father, who later gave them back to his son. Investigators have searched Ranking's home and found one of the weapons, leaving 2 unaccounted for. Ranking, meanwhile, remains on the run.
I'm a migraine sufferer, and I'm an EMT. When I get a migraine at work, it's debilitating. If I call out with a migraine, that's one less ambulance to serve a community. I just don't want to let these people down.
Excedrin Migraine, relief that works as hard as you do.
It's a big week on the Korean peninsula, and South Korean President Moon Jae-in is upbeat. Moon said Monday that a North Korean promise to halt its nuclear testing and close a nuclear test site over the weekend was a green light for historic talks with Kim Jong-un this Friday. It'll be the first meeting in over a decade between leaders from both Koreas. The two countries have technically been at war since the 1950s. Reuters' Christine Kim in Seoul is following preparations for the talks.
Over the weekend, North Korea announced a freeze on nuclear and missile testing to positive responses from leaders all over the world, especially South Korea. Now, many analysts who deal with North Korea have said the Inter-Korean Summit is likely to act as a stepping stone for the next summit between North Korea and the United States.
On Monday, Seoul also turned off its 24/7 propaganda broadcast at the Korean DMZ. Officials from both sides are already meeting at the border village of Panmunjom, laying the groundwork for when the two leaders sit down on Friday. Despite the buzz, US President Donald Trump sounded a word of warning at the weekend, echoing comments he's made since he said yes last month to his own invitation to meet with Kim. Tweeting, quote, "Maybe things will work out, maybe they won't. Only time will tell."
CIA Director Mike Pompeo facing a critical vote Monday by the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in a bid to become the next U.S. Secretary of State. After firing Rex Tillerson from the job in March, President Donald Trump picked Pompeo, who has fielded questions on a range of issues from Syria to North Korea and Iran, during his confirmation hearing earlier in April.
I think Mike Pompeo is extraordinary. I think he'll go down as truly a great Secretary of State.
But not everyone in Washington agrees with Trump. Pompeo could be the first Secretary of State nominee in over a century to not win support from the Senate panel. Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky has said he will vote against Pompeo, and all 10 Democrats on the committee are likely to do the same. Those who oppose him for the job say he is too hawkish and socially conservative. He has also alienated overseas leaders like Iran's foreign minister, who told CBS's Face the Nation Sunday that he could never work with Trump's current nominee. Pompeo is one of Trump's most trusted advisors and has taken the lead in preparing for the upcoming summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. A failure to win the committee's backing won't necessarily derail Pompeo's confirmation, as he could still get enough votes in the full Senate.
I'm a baker and I am a migraine sufferer. Working with a migraine is overwhelming. I take Excedrin before it all goes off the cliff, then I'm back to my life again.
Excedrin Migraine, relief that works as hard as you do.
Expect the same firm handshake, just in a different setting. French President Emmanuel Macron is expected in Washington to meet Donald Trump, and he arrives with a reputation as the US president's best friend in Europe. For that, he's been rewarded with the first official state visit of Trump's administration. But Macron's visit won't be easy, with 3 weighty issues at stake.
The first one being the Iran nuclear deal. Trump has set a deadline of May the 12th for the Europeans and the US to work to fixing the deal, or he'll kill the deal.
Another thorny subject is trade. Macron will hope to move Trump away from slapping new tariffs on metals such as steel and aluminium. And then there's the West's long-term strategy in Syria. France won plaudits in the West Wing for joining a recent strike on the country, but there's disagreement about what comes next. On all these, Macron will be speaking for France first of all, but also for the EU. And he needs to show that getting cozy with the US leader is the right strategy.
In Saudi Arabia, many jobs are now off limits to foreigners. In the last month, car rental shops were told they could only employ Saudi citizens. A shop owner telling us 70% of the shops in this area of Riyadh are now closed. they can't find the workers.
You can see signs like this all over Riyadh. It says that they're looking for Saudi workers only, and the shop is currently closed. But there's still foreigners working here. They're just doing so illegally. They hide in the cars and only come out if they see a customer. If they see the police, they run away.
One employee says it's simple. Saudis don't want to work for the low salaries on offer. So-called Saudiization has been taking hold for years. Pressure to hire more Saudi workers is being felt across all sectors. It's part of Vision 2030, the government's plan to wean its economy off oil exports and reduce unemployment, currently 12.8%. About 2/3 of Saudi workers are employed by the public sector. As the government restrains spending in an era of cheap oil, the pressure is on private businesses to create jobs.
There's a lot of beautiful and wonderful food around here, you know what I'm saying? So, from the Seattle Mariners dishing up grasshoppers to the LA Dodgers Cheeto Lotte, a corn on the cob covered with chipotle mayo, Parmesan cheese, and flaming hot Cheeto dust, there wasn't much left to be desired for fans in love with concession food from baseball parks across America.
I'm Freddie Joyner from Reuters. For decades, MLB food consisted mostly of hot dogs, peanuts, and Cracker Jacks. But at today's MLB stadiums, food has gone to a whole nother level. I'm here at the first annual MLB Food Fest in New York City, where 30 teams have come nationwide to bring their food to impress both MLB fans and foodies alike.
Some of the favorites? The Chicago dog from the Cubs, the chicken waffle cone offered by the Houston Astros, and the classic pastrami sandwich from the New York Mets. For $25, it was an all-you-can-eat extravaganza for 2 hours.
We really wanted to create a fun, interactive, immersive experience for fans and really create some Instagrammable social moments. The unique items that were chosen were really chosen by the club, so it's really our, showcasing what they prefer as their selected choice.
Even former Major League stars had the chance to dig in.
For the first time in my career, I have a chance to see every ballpark's food, and it's delicious.
The most decadent item on the menu? The Atlanta Braves offering pig picking, a taco bowl filled with mac and cheese, pulled pork, curly fries, and coleslaw. Despite all those calories, the food festival, which was around just for this weekend, was sold out.
You're up to date. For more, download the Reuters TV app on your mobile or streaming device.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. James Shaw says he's no hero, but a lot of people around Nashville would beg to differ. The 29-year-old Shaw managed to disarm the gunman who opened fire yesterday at a Waffle House, killing 4 people. Jeremy Searcy lives near the restaurant and says that police wasted no time launching a manhunt for the gunman, who's still at large.
They came across the dirt here, and something with a dog caught a scent not too far from here, and that's when they started proceeding directly, had made a complete 90-degree turn, and came straight toward the house and proceeded through these woods here with the dog leading them, and then stepped through the backyard and proceeded to the neighbor's yard.
He spoke with WTVF-TV. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un meets South Korean President Moon Jae-in on Friday. The world will be watching to see if any progress is made on getting the North to give up its nuclear weapons. This meeting comes ahead of a planned summit between Kim and President Trump in May or June. A glitzy state dinner at the White House is on the agenda as President Trump hosts French President Macron for the first state visit of the Trump presidency. Macron arrives today. The dinner is tomorrow night. Also, at SRNnews.com, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee votes tonight on the nomination of CIA Director Mike Pompeo for Secretary of State.
Most Democrats and some Republicans on the committee say they will not support Mike Pompeo's nomination. They cite in part his record of hawkishness. But Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says Pompeo has already proven himself more than qualified to become the nation's top diplomat.
In recent days, the world learned Director Pompeo had undertaken initial conversations with Kim Jong-un directly Easter weekend to discuss denuclearizing the Korean Peninsula.
Positive support from the committee is helpful but not required. With or without it, the Pompeo nomination will still go before the full Senate. Linda Kenyon, Washington.
French celebrities decry anti-Semitism.
Actor Gérard Depardieu and former President Nicolas Sarkozy are among some 300 well-known French people
urging national action to counter a, quote, new anti-Semitism. That's something they blame on rising Islamic radicalism. They signed a manifesto published Sunday in Le Parisien newspaper, joining politicians from the right and left, as well as Jewish, Muslim, and Catholic leaders. Anti-Semitism is on the rise all across Europe. Michael Harrington, SRN News.
Ireland's premier has officially launched a campaign to overturn some of Europe's strictest abortion rules. Prime Minister Leo Varadkar says that Ireland's May 25th referendum on whether to lift a constitutional ban on most abortions is an opportunity to put compassion at the center of our laws. Clergymen and other Christian leaders scoff at the notion. This is SRN News. The White House says President Trump has no intention of firing Special Counsel Bob Mueller or Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein.
The president's grown increasingly frustrated by Mueller's Russia investigation, which Rosenstein oversees. Still, White House Legislative Affairs Chief Mark Short says he has no reason to believe the president wants to fire them, despite what he calls a media fixation.
Waiting there to see, okay, when's he going to fire Rosenstein? When's he going to fire Mueller? We have the same conversation. As far as I know, the president has no intention of firing these individuals.
But Short tells NBC's Meet the Press further down the road, he cannot rule it out.
You don't know how far off the investigation is going to veer. Right now, he has no intention of firing them.
Sagar Magani, Washington.
On Wall Street this morning, Dow futures are down about 9 points, while NASDAQ futures trading 5 points higher. S&P futures currently up a fraction of a point. More details at srnnews.com.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Monday, April 23rd, 2018. Silver is trading at $16.83 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,325 per ounce. Zencash is trading at $34, and the average price of Bitcoin is $8,963. Antiwar.com reports the Islamic State bombers attacked 2 voter registration centers in Afghanistan on Sunday. The first and biggest attack hit Kabul, while a smaller secondary attack struck outside a center in Pul-e-Kumri in Baghlan province. At least 63 were killed and over 100 wounded. The Kabul attack left at least 57 people killed by itself. Identities are not available, but the site attacked was in the Shiite-dominated part of the capital. The Islamic State referred to the attacks as targeting apostates, suggesting they were trying to kill Shiites. This is common for them, as the Islamic State often goes after religious minorities. The second, smaller attack in Baghlan province did not actually hit the voter registration center itself. Instead, it was a roadside bomb which hit a vehicle outside of the center. A family of 6 was killed, and the Islamic State also claimed credit for this. Afghan parliamentary elections are currently scheduled for October 20th. The vote was supposed to take place in 2016, but was postponed over political reform questions. The reforms are still heavily debated, as they often are in corruption-rife Afghanistan. Selling the public on the merits of registering to vote is going to be difficult if groups like the Islamic State start making those registration centers a target. For over 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals. They don't feed the banks, they're Bitcoin preferred, and have removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports Apple is offering free battery replacement on certain MacBook Pro laptop models following an issue that caused the batteries to expand. The replacement program extends to 13-inch MacBook Pro non-touch bar units manufactured between October 2016 and October 2017 that feature a component that may fail and cause the built-in battery to expand. Apple said the battery issue is not a safety concern, and battery replacements will be offered free of charge at Apple service centers, retail stores, or by mailing the device into the Apple Repair Center. On the website announcing the replacement program, there's a field for MacBook owners to enter their computer serial number to determine if it is eligible for free replacement. Any customer who paid to replace their battery before the program was announced can also contact Apple to request a refund. The program is available to customers worldwide and covers the affected units for 5 years after the first retail sale, but does not extend the MacBook Pro's standard warranty coverage. Are you looking for a cryptocurrency that has a focus on users and usability? Then look into Zencash. Zencash is the world's first private, distributed, and reliable platform for communications, transactions, and publishing. Zencash features global governance with inclusive decision-making, reliable funding for continuous improvements, and documentation and wallets in many languages that are available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices. Learn more at zensystem.io. That's zensystem.io. Reuters reports Congress needs to consider rolling back the spending bill that U.S. Republicans brokered with Democrats last month because lawmakers voted to enact the $1.3 trillion legislation without reading it, according to an aide to President Donald Trump on Sunday. White House Legislative Director Mark Short said the spending bill, which ran more than 2,000 pages, was rushed into place to avoid a government shutdown. He urged Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell to consider new rescission legislation with spending cuts sought by fiscal conservatives in the U.S. House. Short told NBC's Meet the Press, nobody saw the text of the bill within 24 hours because the process in Congress is broken, adding, we would ask the Senate to have patience and look at the packages that get sent to them. Some Republicans want a rescissions bill that would cut up to $60 billion in non-military spending, funds that were crucial to winning Democratic support. But reopening the bipartisan deal could divide Republicans during a midterm election year in which they are vulnerable to a Democratic surge. The party is already struggling against unexpected turbulence over House Speaker Paul Ryan's decision to retire. A rescission vote could also raise the prospect of another embarrassing Republican failure in the 100-seat Senate, which the party currently controls by a 51-49 margin. Republican Senator Susan Collins said on Sunday that she would not support a bill that unwinds the bipartisan deal. House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy, whom Ryan has endorsed as his replacement, wants to use a rescissions bill to implement big spending cuts. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.